Welcome to the next edition of PM Powered's podcast. I am back outside of Philadelphia to my home, and I'm glad to be home, but the weather is dreary and we're expecting thunderstorms. So it's much hotter here than it was in San Diego, believe it or not. So that was amazing to me. This podcast is brought to you by PM Powered, your consulting company to bring you items on project, program, and portfolio management. I'm Wanda Curlee, your authority on project, program, and portfolio management, and I'm glad to be here to bring you some more interesting thoughts on those areas that we've just talked about. So the first thing I have for you today, it's called the Project and Portfolio Management Landscape, and it was done for 2017, which is fairly new even though we're already in June. It was presented by PlanView, and it has a lot of interesting statistics in it. So in the executive summary, they talk about these statistics. 73% of organizations report that they don't have enough resources to meet incoming demand. I would contend that they are probably not using their resources correctly. As I've said all the time, I don't think that the people that are putting projects together understand what their resources really can or cannot provide. 55% of organizations report their projects and resources are not well aligned with business goals. Hallelujah, amen. I think this is absolutely correct. We need to bring in more project portfolio management. Less than 30% of PMOs consider their primary goal is to create business value. Oh my gosh, if this is true, then we got a real big problem. PMOs should be bringing business value, and if they don't, they should be obsolete and revamped. 59% of the organizations have a transformation initiative in place. That's a lot of transformation going on. 49% have seen a project fail in the past 12 months. I would have expected this to actually be higher, and maybe it's how you define project failure for this to be higher. 46% of the organizations report they do not collaborate well on projects. Oh my gosh, 46% do not collaborate well. How do they get a project done? You have to have transparency or collaboration or nothing will get done. So let me go through some more statistics that this report had. One of the questions that they asked is, does your organization have a PMO? 13% said yes, but that's a general PMO. 35% said yes, they have an EPMO, which is an executive PMO or enterprise PMO. 33% said yes, they had an IT PMO, and 19% said they had none. That's amazing to me that 35% had an EPMO, 33% had an IT PMO. What's going on with that one that they have IT PMOs, but they don't have an EPMO in place? That's kind of surprising to me. So what do they call an EPMO? They're calling an EPMO charter to successfully plan, execute, and deliver key initiatives and projects that span across the enterprise. An IT PMO is what they called was primarily responsible for planning, executing, and successfully delivering an IT initiative and project. So over the years, percentage of respondents who have a formalized PMO. In 2014, it was 61%. In 2015, it was 64%. 2016 was the big jump where we had 75%. And 2017 had 82%. So we're slowly getting there that we're going to have PMOs in all organizations, and I think we should. So the primary goal of the PMO, cost cutting was 2%, product development was 3%, deliver projects on time and on budget was 54%, create business value was 30%. I find that horribly inexplicable to me. And 11% were other. All PMOs should be delivering business value, and if they're not, they should not be in existence, in my opinion. How do you categorize your PMO? 47% was equally between strategic and operational. 33% were strategic and 20% were operational. 44% of organizations have a project portfolio management solution to assist in improving their overall PMO performance. This should be much higher. This should be in the 80s. Do you have a project portfolio management system? 44% said yes, 41% said no, and 15% said no, but they were planning on buying it. What is project portfolio management according to this? It's a centralized management of processes, methods, and technology to manage current and proposed projects for a planning and execution perspective. Resource management for the win. What is your biggest challenge? In 2014, this was 50% said resourcing, 17% said benefits realization, and 14% said prioritization. In 2015, 37% said it was resourcing, 26% said it was benefits realization, and 14% said it was prioritization. In 2016, we take a jump again in resourcing back to 46%. Prioritization was 16%, and benefits realization was 15%. 2017, we are even going higher in resourcing to 16%, and prioritization and benefit realization are stagnant at 16%. Again, I find this absolutely a terrible message to send. Resourcing should not be an issue at all. I think we have the resources in place. We just don't know how to use them properly. So almost 75% of organizations do not have enough resources to manage project demand. That's where your project portfolio management comes into place so that you can balance your resource demand with the available resources and do it effectively. So in organizations sharing common resources for strategic projects and operational work, in 2014, that was 73%. In 2015, that was 72%. 2016, that went up to 89%. And in 2017, it went down a little bit in 86%. We absolutely should be using resources, common resources for strategy and for operational work. And your project portfolio manager should be able to do this effectively. If not, then there's an issue with how the project portfolio is running. How well does your organization collaborate on projects and tasks? 47% said were well, 24% were neutral, 21% said not very well, 1% said they do not collaborate, which is absolutely amazing to me, and 7% said they did it very well. There should be more than 7% that say very well. It should not be 47% that say they should do it well. I absolutely should see that going, the 47% should be the very well. And hopefully with project portfolio management, you'll have that. A quick tip, improving project collaboration can result in 74% fewer project delays, 69% better control of costs, and 82% less time wasted. All I can say with this quick tip is, duh, if you're not doing collaboration, then there's something wrong with your organization and you need to get it done quickly. Strategic planning and prioritization. How well aligned are your projects and resources to strategic business goals? 39% said that they're well, 28% said neutral, 20% said not very well, 2% said they're misaligned, and 4% said they don't know, and 7% very well. 54% of the organizations believe their projects and resources are not well or very well aligned with their strategic business goals. Then why are you doing those projects? Projects absolutely should be aligned with strategic objectives, or else you're wasting your talent and your resources doing unnecessary work. Make sure that your project is in line. And in fact, the PMBOK 6 edition says that projects should be aligned with project strategic objectives, or else they should not be done. How do you align and prioritize your projects? 21% said there's no formal methodology. Can you believe that? They have no formal methodology to align their projects. 20% said it's high, medium, or low. 40% said scoring based on business objectives. Hallelujah to those. and 15% said it's other. Almost 50% of organizations score projects based on business objectives. So that is good, but we need to have it more than that. So how many realize their benefits? How do you measure project success or failure? 59% said they measure project success for failure on time only. 54% say it's on budget. 69% said meeting stakeholder expectation. And I want to point out that you could have multiple responses allowed in different categories. So you might have some that said on time and on budget were is how they measured project success. 68% said meeting business outcomes. That is excellent. It should be based on business outcomes. 18% said general consensus. I find that hard to believe. So you just have a general consensus on yes, it was good, yes or not was not good. What do they do? Put the thumbs up, the thumbs down. And 19% said on other KPIs. As long as they're doing it on KPIs, I really don't have a problem with that, but you'd have to actually look at what the KPIs are. In the past 12 months, have you had a project fail? 49% said yes and 51% said no. I kind of believe this, but I think all organizations will have failure. Top reasons for failing is lack of clearly defined objectives and milestones to measure progress, insufficient communication between project stakeholders, lack of communication from senior management. Oh my gosh, if we're still having lack of communication with senior management, where are you, senior management? That should not be happening. Insufficient communication with project stakeholders. I hold project and program managers accountable for that. They absolutely should be communicating. In fact, they should be over-communicating. And lack of clearly defined objectives and milestones. That should not be happening in today's age. That is a responsibility of the project or program sponsor, and I hold them accountable for that. So what do you think of these statistics? Some of them are good and some of them are gloomy. So while we're on this, let's go to something that is near and dear to my heart. So this comes from Singularity Hub, and they say the most innovative companies thrive when people disrupt themselves. And I contend that there's three ways of thinking, and we have to move people into an uncomfortable zone of thinking differently. So this is how people disrupt themselves. So while this is a popular phrase, disrupt yourself before someone else disrupts you, is often meant for organization. Whitney Johnson, and I'm quoting from the article, believes that people should be in practice of disrupting themselves. You should put yourself in uncomfortable positions because that makes you think differently. You see yourself in somebody else's shoes. So Lisa K. Solomon says, in a world of innovation, companies often talk about disruption from new technology and competitive business model. What does it mean? So Whitney Johnson answers, we all recognize that we are living in an era of extremely rapid change. New technology is certainly a huge part of that. Something that is freshly innovative today can make the lifespan journey from cutting edge to obsolete in a pretty short time frame. And we're seeing that right now. Businesses have to be nimble to adapt to changing market demands. If you are not nimble and changing demands, then you are not going to make it as an organization. And in fact, look at smart technology that's going into your homes. We have keyless entries and people that can ring the doorbell, and you can see them on your app on your phone, or you can see them without even going to the keyhole. You can see them from the luxury of your living room. And if you want to let them in, you can even let them in for the luxury of your living room. So if we don't have people that are thinking outside of the box, and to do this, you have to learn to think differently, we will not have innovative people. So let's go to something that also is on that same vein. So again, I got this from Singularity Hub, and it's talking about the power of unsafe thinking to bring bold, world-changing ideas to life. So it's the same thing as disrupting yourself, but in this way they're talking about unsafe thinking. So Sachs is the founder and former CEO of Free Range Studios, a pioneering creative firm that helped create some of the first viral marketing campaigns around social issues, such as The Story of Stuff, which was viewed by over 60 million people. That's a lot of people, even on social media. So Sachs' newest book is called Unsafe Thinking, and I'm not hawking his book. I'm just saying we need to talk about unsafe thinking and how it makes you nimble and bold when you most need it. So there was, again, Lisa K. Solomon talked to Jonas Sachs, excuse me, and Lisa K. Solomon asked, what does it mean to support unsafe thinking? Why is it so important at this moment in time? And Jonas Sachs said, unsafe thinking is the term I use to describe the ways innovators break out of standard operating procedures, break out of old habits of problem solving, and go against dead conventional wisdom when they need it most. We live at a time with extremely rapid change, and that means we too are constantly challenged by change. So again, if you are a project, program, or project portfolio manager, you need to use unsafe thinking with your projects and programs and how you put your portfolio together, because if you don't, you're going to be obsolete quickly, especially if you're working on a project that is bringing absolute cutting edge technology. If you don't bring it quickly, you're going to be out of sync with the rest of the world, and you're going to do a disservice to your company, because you're going to be thinking in the old mold of project and program portfolio and project portfolio management. And you've got to be creative. You've got to be innovative. You got to think outside of that box. So disrupt yourself, do unsafe thinking, and help your projects and programs succeed. So let's go to the next one, and this is kind of talking on the same edge, but it's choosing between the two approaches to project management. And right now, this guy, Carl Weinschenk, excuse me if I mispronounced your name, Carl, talks about the two approaches of project management. And actually, there's more approaches, but he just talks about agile versus waterfall. And he says that with Agile, which was formalized with the 12 principles laid out in the manifesto for Agile software development, and I'm not going to talk about those, but he says that Agile talks about is based on the Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 rule. So he's saying that if you've got a project that is very innovative, that is creative, that you really don't know what you want at the end, then you should be using Agile, because you're going to throw out 80% and only look at the 20%. And you have to be able to do that quickly. So that's something that Agile should do. Now, if you're in a waterfall world, you actually know what you want at the end. This is something where you may be updating a new software, and the software is just bringing it in from a company because it's already there. Yeah, you may need to do some changes to some of the modules, but you really know where you want to go. So those are the two different things. So think about Agile if you want to be destructive. If you want to have that unsafe mind thinking, you might want to use Agile. If you want to do something that's fairly safe and you know where you're going, then waterfall is the cup of tea that you need to use. So I was kind of interested in this next one because it talks, and this comes from Streetwise Reports. It's the company completes $305 million of financing for a 100-watt solar project in Puerto Rico. We all know what's going on in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. There are still people that are without power, and we're getting ready to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Maria. Well, Greenbrier Capital Corp, which is a Canadian company, has come up with the $305 million to finance this 100-watt solar power that is needed for Puerto Rico, and I think it will be great for Puerto Rico. My only concern is, will it be hurricane proof? Because we know that there's going to be another hurricane that comes through Puerto Rico. So I hope they take that into account when they're putting out the solar panels. And I don't know enough about that industry to say whether or not there are ways to make it hurricane proof. I'm sure the greater minds than I are thinking about that in the project. So best of luck to Puerto Rico in getting their solar project. So talk about updating things. Air traffic management to make flying safer. So there was a project called Gamma, and it was EU funded, where they brought up the EU air traffic control. This project has already been done, and they brought a lot of minds together to how to update the air traffic control in the EU. And I have to congratulate the EU because they were able to do it. And the countries that were involved in doing this were France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Romania, Slovakia, Spain, and the United Kingdom. So that my hat's off to all those countries that could make this happen. We in the United States are sorely lacking in updating our air traffic control. I find that dismal for the United States, and we need to get our infrastructure in air traffic control before it actually implodes on itself. So United States, take hold of what was done in the EU with Gamma. So hopefully we'll make it someday. So let me switch to something entirely different. It's the magic quadrant for content collaboration platforms. And we talked a little bit about that when we were talking about the 2017 project and portfolio management view from plan view on content, on collaborations, and found out how many projects are not even collaborating or have project or poor collaboration. So one of the things that this has brought out, this is the Magic Quadrant for Content Collaboration Platforms, and this is put out by Gartner. So it's a understandable and trusted platform that we can talk about. So they define content collaboration platforms are the evolution of the EFSS destination products and address digital workplace enablement strategy. Applications leaders can choose among a range of options to transform individual productivity and team collaboration and business workflow automation. So the strategic planning assumption, by 2020, 80% of large and mid-sized organizations in mature regions will have deployed one or more content collaboration platform products to implement a content product and collaboration strategy. That comes direct from Gartner's report. Gartner defines the CCP, again, this is content collaboration platform, market as a range of content-centric platforms enabling secure file productivity and content collaboration for individuals and teams, as well as supporting the creation of a modern digital workplace. So some of the things they included in when they were defining this was mobility with native apps for mobile devices, notebooks, and desktops, simplicity and usability with modern UIs and optimized interactions such as file drag and drop, file manipulation including easy file access and synchronization and sharing, user productivity such as file creation and editing, collaboration such as team workspace and folders, cooperative editing, change tracking, and comments on files, content management, including metadata classification, search and retention, workflow, including document-based process automation, analytics, including data collection or content usage, security and data protection, data governance, including file access, control, administration, and management, integration with corporate or on-premise data infrastructures and enterprise servers and cloud services, and storage with some using of central data repository. So it was interesting that I thought that in their quadrant, the leaders were Microsoft, then Box, Dropbox, Citrix, Google, Axway or Simplicity, which is the same thing as Axway, and then Engineite. Excuse me, I haven't heard of some of these. So those were the leaders. They all kind of grouped in the same areas except for Simplicity and Engineite. They were kind of lower on the leaders, almost falling into visionaries. There were absolutely no challengers, which I found that absolutely amazing to me. Then niche players were Intralinks, Through, Cetera, and HiQ. The visionaries were BlackBerry. Believe it or not, BlackBerry is still around, and Acelion. So I'm not going to go into the vendor strengths and cautions, but I would point out that if you're a project or program manager, you should be looking, and you're asked to look at some of these collaboration platforms. You should be able to look and make sure that they fit into whatever project platform that is used. So if you're using Project or MS Project Server or eProject, I would assume that the Microsoft platform for collaboration is absolutely already in there. So you don't have to worry about it. But if you have decided not to use this collaboration platform, make sure that Box, Dropbox, or one of the other ones fit into your server or to your e-projects, or even to your desktop if you're still using desktop. So this is a great thing if you can get your hands on this Gartner Magic Quadrant for Contact Collaboration Platforms. I absolutely expect you to do it. It is free of charge. I got it free of charge. It's something that I'm absolutely going to hold on to. So the last thing I want to go over today is Mobile Enterprise 2020, 8 ways mobility will transform communications for business. We as project and program and project portfolio managers have to understand mobile enterprise, because most of our projects and programs are absolutely remote nowadays. We have to be able to collaborate remotely. So it says a new reality for the mobile enterprise, increased functionality, choice, and continuity. What does this mean for modern businesses? Fixed and mobile networks have recently started working on a common technology, the IP, that opens up a new realm of seamless communication possibilities. It's got to be flexible, so functions are no longer tied to places, mobile checkouts, etc. It's got to be a choice, more devices, options, and mobile identities on one device. And continuity, one experience synced across devices with a common identity. Absolutely, we've got to be able to do this. I work on my laptop and I work on my phone, my smartphone all the time. And that common identity's got to be there. So how will mobile-oriented technology transform business? Let's see how some of the experts in the field think about it. So this is from Angela Russell-Rekika. She's the Global Telco Evolution Executive at IBM. She said, mobility will enhance the context for decision making. And I absolutely believe this. We have to be able to make decision making on mobility. Because if we don't have the mobile ways of doing decision making, because we have to see what's going on the projects and what's going on our programs on our smartphones or on whatever device we want to have good decision making. So Kevin Benedict, the senior analyst for the Center of the Future of Work, says personalization will drive mobile commerce. And I absolutely agree with him on that. Sahi Levant-Levi, founder of bloggeek.me, says mobile has virtualized the end user's equipment. He goes on to say that mobile has made two things possible. Virtualization of the end user's equipment now that we've virtualized the data center, and shift from web-based services to application-based services. Think of all the apps you have on your phone right now that we use to contact and collaborate and use for mobile services. So absolutely, I agree with them. This comes from Wes Duro, Chief Marketing Officer from Mitel. He says the lines between networks and carriers have blurred, and that is absolutely correct. Looking back 15 years ago, there was a distinct lack of demarcation between voice and data networks, and that no longer exists, people. We have to be able to go on this. So John Arnold, voice IP and IP communications analyst and consultant, he says for collaboration to be effective, the applications need to be where the end users live. I absolutely believe that. If you don't have the applications that you need, somebody else will find it and ace you out of what is going on. So what else is going on in this area? Marcy Troutman, CEO of SiteMinis Inc. I apologize for that, Marcy. She said hardware is now agnostic. fixed mobile convergence is a transition point in the industry that will finally remove the distinction between fixed and mobile networks, providing a superior experience to customers by creating seamless services. Hallelujah. I hope that's coming sooner rather than later. So Blair Pleasant, she's the president and principal analyst at ComFusion. She said remote workers will be the norm. I absolutely believe this, and I think we're absolutely seeing this. As brick and mortar becomes more and more expensive, remote workers will be working from home, and they'll have to have the same avenues that they had at workplaces. So that will become the norm. Thank you, Blair, for saying that, because I absolutely agree with her. So Rich McPhee, he is the Chief Executive Officer at Mitel, and Mitel is what brought this to us. We are on the brink of enormous possibility for seamless collaboration and communications. As we define the cloud-powered mobile enterprise, we see business communications move to a consumer-like experience, and mobile communications move towards a communications-like experience. So freedom to work anytime, anywhere, on any device. Absolutely. I can't believe in this more. So I'm Wanda Curlee. I am your person that brings you, I am your expert on project, program, and portfolio management, and I hope to bring you more on these areas. Please remember to look at PM Connection, and I would love to have you hook up with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. I'd love to hear from you on pmpower.com. This podcast has been brought to you by pmpower.com. If you have any information on any of these projects that I brought to you, if you disagree with anything that I've said, if there's something that you agree to, if you've been a project manager on one of these projects that I've talked about, please contact me at wanda@pmpower.com. I'd love to hear from you. If there's something I'm not talking about that you would love to have me talk about, again, please contact me at wanda@pmpower.com. And I look forward to talking to you next Monday. It's been great having you on, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.